Okay, let's do the review for your final, right? So far, we have been learning what? That will be on your final. We will cover everything, right? So we say 3 things you learn in this class. One is log and exponents. Log functions and exponential functions. They are inverse to each other, right? Another thing is what? Conic sections. Parabolas, circles, ellipse, and hyperbolas, right? You will graph it with those. Also, find the intersections between 2 different graphs. Also, we learned what? Pattern recognitions, right? Which includes arithmetic and geometric for sequences and series. We also learned some other miscellaneous things, 3 by 3, right? System of equations and some solving inequalities, which includes what? Quadratic inequalities and rational inequalities. We also learned what? Some advanced quadratic equations. That will be on your final. Okay? So let's see, on your final review paper, let's try some miscellaneous things first. Do some inequalities, okay? And some advanced quadratic equations. Take a look at your page 2. So page 1 just tell you probably wanted to go through all your previous exams, 1, 2, 3, right? To make sure you still remember them. Okay, so we are on your page 2. Let's do some inequalities. We have 2 types. One is what? Quadratic, right? Another one is fractions. Then that will be rational inequalities. Similar methods. So first step, remember what to do. If you don't remember, go back to your exams and notes. So we say find CN's critical numbers. Then you will have 2 critical numbers. You split the 3 regions, and your answer will be what? Either in the middle or on the 2 sides. Remember this? We use sign graphs to do it. So find the critical numbers first. So to find the critical numbers means what? The boundary conditions, either greater than or less than, right? For those 3, but the boundary conditions will be what? Equals zeros, right? Between greater than and less than. So to do that, we write the what? Equation, right? Write an equation, then find the critical numbers. So it's quadratic. Write it in standard form, then you factor it, right? You need to know how to factor it by now. So, right, multiply together -4, add together -3. And so you have 2 critical numbers, right? Then, next one, use the sign graph to do that. Okay, use this one. 1 is what? -1, 1 is 4. Then from these 2 numbers, you have 3 regions, right? Then this is your sign graph. Then to decide which region will be your answer, then you need to do test. Okay, how do we do tests? We choose a number, so we probably just choose any number simpler, right? Simpler numbers to do that. When you do the test, you need to plug into the original. So when you have a -2, so do we have -2 square minus 3 times -2 bigger than 4, right? 4 plus 6, yes. Is that right? Then for 0, you say 0 square minus 3 times 0 bigger than 4. That's 0, right? So it's no. How about 5? So 5 square minus 3 times 5, 15 greater than 4. That's 10, yes. So your answer will be this part, oops, not the past 5, it's past 4, according to the critical numbers, right? So then, okay, we test it. Then we write the answer should be these 2 parts. So this part is a negative infinity all the way to the critical number, -1, right? Infinity always use parentheses. -1, should we include -1 or not? Okay, so when it's a -1, that would be equal for both sides, right? -1 is equal. So we cannot include the -1 because it's greater than, so it's a parenthesis. How about this side? 4 to infinity, should we include in 4? Should we include 4? Your plug-in should be equal, not greater than. So you should do that. Then with union sign means what? Put them together, right? So either in the middle or on the 2 sides. Don't use the test point as your boundary point. You need to remember, you need to use what? Your critical numbers for your boundary points. Okay? Then that's for quadratic inequalities. For the rational inequalities, same method, right? But a little bit different is how to find the critical numbers. One critical numbers is what? The denominator is 0 because denominator cannot be 0, so it's critical. Another one is what? The boundary point is bigger than or smaller than 0, right? So boundary point is equal to 0. Okay, so this one x is 2. Then this one, to find the critical numbers, you need to get rid of fractions, right? You can just multiply both sides by x minus 2. So those cancel out, right? So 0 times that is 0. So then we have what? X is -5, right? So we have 2 boundary points, which are what? One is -5, another one is 2, right? Then we use the test point. So we have -5 and 2. Then test point, which number you think you will use? Just something simple. Over here, maybe -6. Over here, maybe just use 0. Here, you can just use 3. Okay, you have to test the original condition. So for testing, you plug in. So you say -6 plus 5 over -6 minus 2 less than 0 or equal to, is that right? That's what? -1 over -8. So it's 1/8 less than 0? No. Right? One is positive, one is negative. How about middle one? 0 plus 5, 0 minus 2 less than 0. Then 5 over negative. So it's a negative less than 0. Yes. Right? So how about 3? It's 3 plus 5 over 3 minus 2 less than 0. That's a positive. So it's no. Right? So the answer is what? In the middle. Then we have to decide the boundary conditions to decide if the answer should include those points. So should we include negative 5? Negative 5 would be what? You plug in, that would be 0. So yes, because you have what? Equal here, right? So negative 5 can work. Then come on, 2. Can we include 2? 2 will make the denominator 0. Cannot do that for fraction. So we should exclude that. So your answer should be negative 5 to 2. Are we good? So we just did what? One of the miscellaneous things for the inequalities. Then let's try some advanced quadratic equations. Okay, look here, example 3. So look at that. We say quadratic equation is what? X squared, say x squared minus 2x minus, right? So the first term is what? If you write it in standard form, first term is what? The square of the second term's variable, right? Variable in the second term. So if this one is the second term, it's the first term, the square, x negative 1 squared is what? X negative 2, right? So it is. Then how do we do that? Let's just write it in the standard form first. That will be minus 8, right? Then if we make this is your y equals x negative 1, right? Then your y squared will be what? Take a square will be negative 2. Is that right? So y squared would be that. That would be this one. So x negative 2 becomes what? Y squared, right? Y squared equals x negative 2 minus what? 2y. Y is your x negative 1 minus 8 equals 0, right? Then quadratic equations. That's what we are doing, advanced quadratic equation by transform them back to quadratic equation. Then you do your factoring. Then we have what? Y equals 4, y equals negative 2. But remember what was your original question? Find the x. You have to put it back. Y is what? X negative 1. So that means x negative 1 equals 4, or x negative 1 equals negative 2. Then we have to find the x. Then we say negative 1 power doesn't mean negative 1. It means what? Reciprocal. Is that right? Then how do we find our x? Times x times x. Right? So here is what? 1 equals 4x. X is what? 1/4. Then here, y equals negative 2x. X is what? Negative 1/2. You just solve it. Remember this? Okay. Then let's do some log and explanation functions. Okay, for functions, we might make a graph or we might solve equations. Let's solve the equations first. So let's do some exponential equation. Okay, that's one of them. Another one is this. What kind of approach? We talk about how to solve the exponential equations. Make the base the same if we can, right? So 8 and 4, we can use 2. 2 to the third power, 2x plus 1, right? 1/4 is what? 2 to the negative 2. Is that right? Reciprocal, right? So 2 to the square is 4. Then this one is 3 times 2x plus 1 equals 2 to the negative 2. So same base, we can ignore it. So we have 2x plus 1 equals negative 2. Then we try to solve our x. So it's a linear right now. Then you move 3. So, right? This is just basic things from your 152A class, solving linear equation. So x is what? Negative 5, 6. Right? Then another type of exponential equations is what? You cannot make the base 10, 7, and 15, right? This is a 3 and 5. So what do? What kind of approach we have? We say we have to borrow the log, rewrite it as a log, right? We need to rewrite as a log. So we write log base what? That's the base 7, right? What's in the middle? What's outside? So you hook it. So hook to the power to become inside. What was the question? Find the x, right? Then how can we find the x? We have to find the log 7 and log 15. So logs, on your calculator you don't have base 7, right? We have to use base change formula equals this one. Then you just plug in this one, right? On your calculator, that would be 31662. Okay, just use as many as you can. Then you plus 1, right? Then divide by 3. 3x equals 2.39, whatever we have here. Then x is what? You just divide by 3. That would be this one, 0.7972208356. Okay? Then the question was what? Approximated to 4 decimal places. So your x should be what? 0.7972. It's around there. Right? So for log and exponential equations, we solve the exponential equations first. Then how about some log equation? Right? And this, we have another one like this. Okay, let's remove this one. We have log 4ax minus log 4, x minus 2 equals 3, right? 1 is plus, 1 is minus equals number. So we said, how should we solve log equations? You have to write it as a single log, okay? You need to write them as a single log, then you can use the log and change log to exponential equation to solve it. So combine, if it plus same base, that would be, what do you do inside? We say you multiply them, right? How do you add the log? We need to do that, right? If subtract, we should do what? We should divide inside. Remember that? Then what do we do to solve log equations? We have to hook it to change to exponential equation. So when you hook it, means what? Square, don't multiply them, right? Then should equals to inside, then we'll have 36 equals x squared plus 3x minus 18. You just FOIL them out, right? And you solve it. So what do we have? X minus 54. 0, we have quadratic equation, right? Then you can factor plus 9 and minus 6 will work, right? Multiply together, negative 54, add together is 3. So we have x equals what? Negative 9 or 6. Then, can we circle the answer? We said a few things you need to check, right? One is fraction, denominator cannot be 0. One is what? Radicals. Then inside of the even radicals, you have to be positive, cannot be negative. Another one is a log. Inside the log has to be what? Okay, has to be positive. Then even root can be 0. 0 or bigger than 0. But the inside the log has to be positive. That was the restriction. For the fractions, then denominator cannot be 0. So we need to check. When I plug in negative 9, no, because since inside the log has to be what? Positive, right? Negative 9 add up together. How about 6? That's positive. 6 minus 3, it's 3. So it's okay. So this one, x equals 6. It's all right. Okay? So if you don't check, you just circle the answers, then you'll probably only get, some credits, but not all of them. You will be deducted some. How about this one? Same thing, right? Once you have a log, you have to hook it, right? So 4 to the third power, which is what? 64 equals ax over x minus 2, right? So 1 becomes what? Quadratic. 1 becomes what? Rational equation. That's what we have been learning in your 152 class. Okay, so to solve the rational equations, and what do we do? Get rid of fractions, right? Then what do we have? 64x minus 128 equals 8x, right? Then you solve it. So then your x, you move x over, move 128 over. So your x is 16 over 7. Okay? Then we have to decide, can we use this answer to see inside if it's positive or negative? Here is positive. Here, minus 2, we see. So this number, if you check on your calculator, should be somewhere there, right? So minus 2 still what? Minus 2 still positive. So we can circle the answer, but you have to state the reason and to show you actually checked it. Inside the log is positive by minus 2, so we can circle the answer. Right? Are we good? Okay, how about another one? Here, say log 6x plus 6 plus log 6x minus 3 equals log 6 and 10. What's the difference between this problem and previous two? Look at them. On the right-hand side, you only have a number, and this one, right-hand side, you still have log, okay? However, we have to write it as a single log to start with. So by adding means what? You multiply inside. Okay? But here you log, change the log becomes a number, single log with a number. You can hook it. But here you cannot hook it, right? Because both are log 6. But since it's both are log 6, you can just ignore them, right? Because they are same log, all you have to do is just compare the inside. So your inside should be equivalent, right? Then we have a quadratic equation, and we write it in standard form, right? So we have x squared plus 3x minus 28 equals 0, right? So if I write it in the factoring form, I should have a minus, that would be 7 and 4, plus 7 and minus 4, right? So I have x equals what? Negative 7, I can have x equals 4. Can I circle them? Negative 7 will make inside negative. We cannot do that. 4 for 10, 4 minus 3 is 1, so it's okay, right? Because since you have to state the reason, since inside the log has to be what? Positive, so we can do that. Okay, so we are reviewing the log, and we have to know how to combine different logs with the same base, right? But to a single log before we can resolve the equations. So we want you to practice combining into the single log as well, right? Combining to a single log means what? Just a log, a base with something inside. Nothing outside, okay? Nothing outside. Everything is inside, maybe it's with some powers. Okay, so if we have this one to log 7 with base 7 with log 7 and z, combine to a single log. However, if you have a number, you can just leave them alone, because when you combine, if it's a number, you can just subtract out of the equation, right? All we need to do is just combine the log. We can just leave one alone. And half, we don't want it outside, we want to put it inside. So if you multiply, you do what? Becomes a power. Remember this, right? Minus 2, we want to move inside. When you multiplied, then we need to move inside like that. And log 7 and z, right? Then what do we have? Then we can combine them. Here is a minus and minus, right? So log 7, then y squared, half power, right? Square root. Then minus means what? You divide, right? And minus another z, you divide it. So you can write the answer this way. Or you can write the answer 1 plus log 7, okay, square root y, right? Or x squared z. You can write it either way. You can just leave the 1 alone. Usually we do that. Are we good? So that would be our log. Okay. Let's see, your next question is 3 by 3. Okay, so we come back here, do some other miscellaneous thing for 3 by 3. Let's do that. We need the whole space. So in class, usually I just let you have hands-on, then I can check on you. But here, then we just do it on the board. So it's easier if you can just do it yourself first, then with the blank paper and do it, then check the answer. This way you can practice your test actually hands-on and to know what's going on, right? Then we have 3 by 3. So we identify them for different equations. So the method was what? To reduce, make it simpler, right? So 3 by 3 we reduce to 2 by 2. And reduce to 1 by 1 means what? One equation, one variable, linear equation, then you can find the answer. So you have to decide which variable you want to eliminate first, right? 3 variables, eliminate 1 becomes 2 variables. So you can decide you want to eliminate x or y or z, whichever you feel easier. Okay, let's do the x. So first step, I want to eliminate x. Okay, so if I use 1 and 2, I have just rewrite it. So in case we have some typos, then it's easier to figure out. So eliminate x, you get rid of. That would be negative 2y plus 4z equals what? Negative 2. Is that right? Am I right? Let me see. 2x minus 3y plus z, right? See, I double checked. I already had a typo. Take a look at your paper. This one is what? Minus. This one is what? Minus. If so, here should be what? Minus 2z, right? So that would be my new equation from 3 variables to 2 variables. So that's my new equation. Then I need 2 of them, 2 equations, right? 2 by 2. So I might use another 2 of them to find it. So I might use the first one. I still eliminate x. Okay, you cannot change it halfway through because you wanted to do what? Let me see which one I want to use. I use 2 and 3 is better because that's negative. Okay, either way will work. And so I use this one. Okay, 2. Then this one is x minus y. The reason I choose 2 instead of 1 and 3, you can use 1 and 3, okay? But I choose 2 and 3 because 1 is a positive, 1 is a negative. That will make it easier. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by what? 2, right? I will have 2x minus 2y plus 4z equals negative 10. Let me see. Do I have typos? Then I will rewrite this. Okay, then I put it together. This one, negative y plus z equals negative 3. Let me check, double check if I have typos. Okay, so I have a new one, right? So from 3 by 3, now I'm down to 2 by 2. Okay, so fourth equation, x is gone, right? So this one, negative y plus z equals negative 3, right? Then you can decide which one you want to eliminate. So either y or z, right? So if I say, okay, I want to get rid of, eliminate z. Okay, what do I need to do? Z, I will multiply this by 2. I will have negative 2y plus 2z equals negative 6, right? Then rewrite the previous one, that one. So if I add them, that will go away. Then I have negative 4y equals negative 8. My y is what? 2. Okay, I got a y number. Then I can plug in anywhere, but not 3 variables one. So we just plug in the simple one, okay? So if I plug in here, that would be what? I will have negative 2 plus z equals negative 3, right? Then my z plus 2, okay, z will be negative 1. Then what's my x? We just plug in maybe 3, okay? So I'm going to plug in the third one. That would be x is x minus 2, y is 2 plus 2 to negative 1 is a negative 5. So my x would be negative 4. Just solve it, right? So the answer for x, y, z would be what? Negative 1, y is 2, z is what? Negative 1. So that would be your answer. Are we good? Okay. So you will have those one of the questions for miscellaneous sum. So if you look at another one, we are going to do the counting sections, right? To graph it. Besides graphing it, we have what? Also to solve it. Okay? So this one is not a function. Y equals x squared is a function, right? X equals y squared actually is a sideways parabola. And what's the first one? We have to see it. It's minus. So all the ellipses and the circles are plus, right? So must be those. The y squared in front of it, so this one, y squared minus x squared. So would be hyperbola with what? Upside down. Right? So if you write it in standard form, you divide by 9, then you can see. Okay? But to solve it, not a graphing it, so what do you think? You can plug in x equals y squared. Then x squared becomes y fourth power. It's undesirable because the power is too high for you to solve. How about I just do the y squared, plug in as x? Can I do that? So I will have what? 12 y squared becomes x, right? Then minus 4x squared equals 9 will be much easier. Okay, so how do we solve it? Then write it in standard form. Okay, I'm going to move to right hand side. Right? So what do I have? 0 equals 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. Then you can factor or you use the quadratic formula. So what do we have? We have 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3, multiply together, right? Equals 0. So what's your x? X is what? 3/2. Excuse me, right? But we have to write answers for x and y's, all the pairs, right? Then how do you find your y? You can just stuck, right, and plug in there. So what do we have? We have 3/2 equals y squared. Then what's your y? Then if you write just, okay, take a square root of this, you will get only half credit. Why? We'll keep saying for even root property, y can be positive and negative. So your answer should be what? 3/2. You have to write order the pairs. One is a positive, and if you write it this way, one is negative. Okay? However, if you write the answer this way, you will get some deduction. Why? Because for radicals, we need to simplify it. We said for radicals, you cannot have what? Fractions inside the radicals. So what do we need to do? We need to write it this way, right? That's in your 152B class. So you multiply square root, so that will be what? 2. So get rid of the radicals in the denominator and no fractions inside the radicals either. So, oops, this one should be negative. So you shouldn't write the answer this way. You should write what? 3/2 and square root of 6 over 2. Then another one would be 3/2 negative square root over 2. Right? So we just did some conic sections, right? And find how they intersect with each other. Like this one is a sideways parabola, and another one is the upside down hyperbolas. So situation like this, and another one is the sideways parabola. So they intersect at 2 places, so that will be your solutions, right? Now let's graph some conic sections. So look at your page 5, number 11. Let's see. We have this one, x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 8y minus 3. Okay, then you have to decide what kind of shape is this one. So let's see. Remember, we had this ax squared plus by squared plus what? Cx plus dy plus e equals 0, right? The kind of second degree equations for x and y, then it can be, you know, a line or parabolas or circles or ellipses or hyperbolas. Depends on A and B conditions, right? In your exam 3, we reviewed that. So let's see. But we have square. If we have square, both x and y square, that means not parabolas. So can be other 3. So let's see, what do we have? Then we have to complete the square, right? X squared minus 10x plus y squared plus ay. Move number over 3 over to another side, right? It looks like a circle because x squared, y squared, both are what? Same A and B coefficients are 1, right? Both are 1. So if x squared plus y squared equals r squared, that would be a circle. So let's see, we have this one to complete the square. See, what do we have? Then minus 10, half of a negative 10, right? Would be negative 5. Then square would be 25. We need another 25 to complete the square. Then we add one side to another side. So this one would be plus 4, right? Then you need 16 to complete, become a square. So plus 16, that would be what? 40 and 56. Is that right? 56. So what's the center? We ask you, okay, find the center and the radius. So the center will be what? 5 and negative 4, right? The opposite. So because the circle is what? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, right? Then we have to write this as r squared. So 56 is what square? Square root of 56 takes square. Is that right? Okay, let me write it here. Equals 56 takes square, right? But you cannot leave square root of 56. If you do that, you'll probably get some deduction. Why? We say for radicals, you have to write the simplest form. Just like fraction, you don't write it this way, you write 1/2, right? So whatever, if you have a rule, you have to take out. So 56 is what? 2 times 2 times 14, right? So you take 2 out, should be 2 square root of 14. Take the square. So to simplify, square root of 56. So the radius should be what? Square root of 56, then it should be 2 square root of 14. Okay, square root of 56 is correct, but not precise enough for math. We need to have simplest form. Okay, let's try next one. To do another graph for a parabola. Okay, f of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. By plotting at least 5 points. All right, you have to find the vertex, right? So what's the vertex? For the t-table, we say vertex for x is what? Negative b over 2a. Then you plug in for y, right? So b is 2, a is 1, so that would be negative 1. Then you plug in y is what? 1 minus 9. So when we graph it, so the t table will be what? Y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. So you put a -1, -9, 0, and 1, -2, -3. Right? Okay. When you plug in, you should have all those numbers. They should be symmetrical, right? So we have what? -1, -9, -2 and -8, 0 and -8, and 1 and -5. Okay, 1 and -5 here, right? Then you should have a graph like this. Then we need to answer a bunch of questions as well. So that's our vertex. X of symmetry would be what? X equal -1, right? Do we have a minimum or maximum? So it's a minimum equals what? -9. Then we also ask you what's the domain and range. Domain or the x's, left and right, or real numbers, right? Range up and down. So from -9 and up, so it's a -9 up to infinity. Okay. We also ask you what's the x-intercept and y-intercept. Y-intercept is right here, right? So x-intercept is what? Y is 0, y-intercept, x is 0. You plug in. So y-intercept is 0, -8. How about x-intercept? Y is 0. So y, that's your y, right? So y is 0. Y is 0. So x squared plus 2x minus 8 is 0. Then x plus 4, x minus 2 is 0, right? So x is what? -4 or 2. So here is what? -4, 0. Here is what? 2, 0. So your x-intercept should be -4, 0, and what? 0, 2, 0, right? 2 places. So we did this many times to graph a parabola. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So we are doing a what? Conic system. Okay, so number 13 we are going to skip. It's not on your final, which is fine. Okay, next one, number 14 on your page 6. Susan saved money out of each paycheck for her entire life. Oh, this one is already doing the patterns now. Okay, so for these apps, that's the pattern. So Susan saved money out of each paycheck for her entire life. If the first year she worked, she saved a total $200 out of her paycheck. And second year, she saved $325, next year $450, and so on, in this manner. How much would she save over a period of 40 years? That would take forever, right? So each year, gradually more and more and more. So what was the question? How much will she save over a period of 40 years? That means what? We have to find the total. So it's 200 plus 325 plus 450 plus all the way, right? For after 40 years. So we have to decide, do we have arithmetic or geometric sequence? it looks like plus 125 plus 125. It's arithmetic sequence, right? So for 40 years, so we have what? A1 is 125. Then what else we need? We need a comma difference. Okay, A1 is 200, comma difference 125. N is 40, right? We want to find the Sn. So what's the formula for Sn? Sn is what? For arithmetic sequence is n over 2 a1 plus an. Is that right? So n is 40 over 2, a1 is 200. What is an? It's a40, right? To the last. Then we don't have here. What do we need to do? We need to use the formula for the sequence, right? Then what is the an? An is what? A1 plus n minus 1d, right? A40, so A1 is 200, that's A40, right? What do we need? So plus 40 minus 139, D is 125. So you have to do that first, okay? Then you get a 5075. So you put a 5075 here, right? Then you find the answer after 40 years, from $200 all the way 40 years later, she saved the $5,075, right? So total would be what? You add them together, 105,500. So that would be the total amount of saving she will have after 40 years. Okay, so many we reviewed everything, and let me see. And we didn't have all the sequences, review all the sequences, but that's on your exam 3, just happened, right? You should remember them, go back to all your exam 3 to review all this. You do have quite a bit of questions on that, okay? Then we just review the older problems you might have forgotten, okay? Also, I added 2 more pages, pages 7 and 8, for your final. It must be on your final. That's why we add more, okay? So let's do a few. Then for the questions, we haven't completely covered, okay? But I suspect that would be on your final. Let's see. We want you to do the composite function. We did this, right? Composite function for the purpose of the inverse function. We did that. All right. So for composite function, the trivial notation means what? You stack them up, right? You do f of x first. So f of x is what? For x, you get 3x plus 5 for return for the f, right? For the g, it says you will square it and minus 2 that much, 2 of them, right? That means for g, whatever you have, you should have squared it and minus 2 of the things you put in. Is that right? That's how g would do. So you put in this one, so you need to do this way. You better overcome the difficulties of the composite function you needed for your pre-calculus and calculus, okay? So then you need to simplify in combined like terms, okay? Then you should get this. Remember this? One more thing you might have is the graphing for exponential function or log function. Okay, so what do? You do your t-tables, right? xy equals 2x plus 1. Then we will put for this one, we'll put a 0 in the middle, 1, 2, and -1, -2. We just plug in 2 to the 0. That would be 2, 2 to the 1 power plus 1, that would be 5, 2 to the 3 power plus 1 would be 9, 2 to the -1 power plus 1, that's half, right? Half plus 1 is 1 and 1/2. 2 to the -2 power plus 1 is what? 1/4, 1/4, right? So when you graph it, how does it look like? 0 would be 2, right? And 1 would be, let me see, 2 to the 1 power is 3. No wonder it looks funny. Then 2 to the 2 power is 5. Okay? I was jumping to 2 and 3. So that would be what? 0 is 2, 1 would be 3, 2 would be 5, and -1 would be what? 1/2, -2 would be 1/4. Remember this? So it's exponential growth. But you better mark your asymptote because you cannot go over. It approaches, but never get over that line. So because remember, shift up to 1 level. So that will be your graph. So if you don't remember this, you better go back to where? Exam 2, right? For the log and the exponential function. Okay. We also have this on your page 8. I add 2 more, so must be on your test, I would think. Log equations. Oh, we did this quite a bit. Okay, we already did this earlier, so it's very similar. So answer is 3. Okay, you better do it yourself. Make sure it's correct. Okay, so how about this one? Look, 2x. If we have this one, let's do one more. All right, and this is -1. You have 1 log here, 1 log here, base 2, but you have number, right? Then we say we need to use 1 single log to solve it. So we better move this log over because so far we haven't shown you this, but you should be able to, you know, incorporate those thinkings. Okay? Your mind needs to be flexible to do calculus. Okay? So then subtract means what? You divide. Now it's similar to the one we practiced earlier, right? For the log, you rewrite it as an exponential equation. 2 to the -1 equals this, right? That means what? You have half equals x plus 16. Then how do we solve that? So 2, we need 2 and x plus 16. So we have x plus 16 here. Then we need the times 2 here, times 2 here, right? Use LCD. So what do we have? X plus 16 equals 2x, right? Then we solve it. Then x is minus x 16. Can I circle the answer? Yes, because we checked, and because the inside the log is what? Positive, right? So that will cover pretty much everything we have done for this class. And you need all this for the calculus and pre-calc. Practice that. You should be okay, right? If you still have problems, you better call me. All right, so that will be our review for the final.